Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is a missing persons case that to this day has yet to be solved. It's the case of Allan Bryant, and to this day his family are still looking for him. And it's just a really all around sad and just mysterious case because we have no idea what happened to him. Of course there's theories in it which we will touch a little bit on, but again, it's unsolved, so no one really knows. Let's jump in. Allan Bryant Jr. was 23 years old when he went missing. And he seemed like a really nice guy. He was intelligent, he did well in school, he had lots of friends, was a very social guy, although, like, he didn't go out often, which is just neither here nor there. At the end of the day, I don't like to go out often either. I mean, like, partying and drinking, going out often. He would much rather go on his Xbox at home and chill out with some friends and have a few games rather than actually go on nights out. I'm not saying he never did go on them, because he did, but would just prefer to do the other and stay at home and just have more of a relax and a chill rather than go out and have a rave. You know, some people like that, some people don't. Just depends on what kind of person you are, and that's the kind of person that Allan was. But he made friends easily. He had like two groups of friends. He had a really close group of sort of close-knit friends, and then he had a bit of a wider circle where he had a lot more friends as well, but they were sort of not as close to him. And his parents did really try. His father was called Allan Sr., and they really did try to make him aware of dangers in the world and things like that, you know, and just try and educate their son as best they could. And he was very close to his family. He loved spending time with them. He also had a sister with whom he was very close to and would often spend loads of time with her and just do all these different activities with her. Now, Allan actually lived in Scotland. And oh, sorry, he had two sisters. Sorry, it wasn't one sister, he had two sisters. But like I say, he lived in Edinburgh in Scotland. And he actually lived with his parents. So although he didn't go out often, maybe a couple of times a year, we're going to jump to a time when Allan did decide to go out. It was the 2nd of November in 2013. So Allan had one of his mates round. They had a chill, they were doing whatever. Sometimes they would have a couple of drinks. And his friend had actually been invited to this engagement party. I don't know whether Allan was invited to, maybe both of them were. And eventually they decided that very last minute that they were actually gonna go. So he asked his dad if he could borrow a bit of money to grab a few drinks. And everyone was in a really happy, joyful mood. Allan started getting ready, so did his friend, and they were planning on, like I said, going out. They got there around 9 p.m. Everyone enjoyed it. It was at this golf club, I believe. And anyway, this place was getting ready to close at about midnight. And a few of them decided that they didn't want to end their night there, and so they decided to go out and grab a taxi to a place called Sticks nightclub. Allan goes there, has a ball, they all enjoy themselves, but he decides that he's going to leave. Now, there's CCTV footage of this as well, of him at the club, and him actually leaving the club in the early hours of like the next morning. It was about 2:02 a.m. You can see him on the footage. He's kind of stumbling around, you know, he's looking a bit worse for wear on the drink side. When people have drinks, that's what they tend to do. You lose your, I don't know, some of your inhibitions, you do stumble around and things, and that's what Allan appears to be doing in this video. Now, it was said that when Allan actually went out, he didn't take anything with him. He didn't really have much money, so he borrowed something off his dad, but probably only to suffice what he needed for that night. So he didn't have any money on him after that, after he bought the drinks. He didn't have his passport on him, didn't have any form of ID, didn't have a phone because 2 weeks previous to this, his phone had actually broke. So nobody had any way of contacting Allan. And I believe he actually left his jacket at the golf club, which potentially had his bank card in it. I'm not entirely sure about that. But he ended up leaving this jacket there, so he didn't even have his jacket. It wasn't a really warm night either. It was actually pretty cold. So he's going out with like a shirt on, and it was cold. He didn't have a jacket. So he leaves the nightclub, right? And then nobody knows what happens to him after that, because it's only a 10-minute walk to his parents' house, which you would think that he left at 2-ish. Would be home by 20 past at the very latest if it's 10 minutes away. He never made it back home. Obviously, his parents knew he'd gone out, and they were expecting him to wake them up, coming in at the early hours like people normally do when they go out for a drink. but he didn't. He didn't come home. Couldn't actually call him either because he had no phone. Normally, if he was going to stay at a friend's house, he would have borrowed their phone and got in touch with them somehow, but that hadn't happened either. So there was a bit like wondering what on earth was going on. It was the next day when Allan still hadn't come home that they decided to ring the police. Well, he was actually reported missing in the afternoon. It was about 4:30 p.m. because before that they tried everything they could think of to try and find him, ringing his friends, ringing anybody they literally could to see if anyone knew where Allan was, because obviously they're not just going to jump straight to he's missing. He could be with a friend somewhere. Maybe he couldn't get hold of a phone. Maybe he was too drunk to do so. Who knows? So they tried all of the other avenues first before they did ring the police at 4:30. Now, the police dropped the ball on this one, guys. We've heard it time and time again, and on this one they definitely did. They didn't actually recover the CCTV from anywhere until like 5 days later, right? There are cameras literally everywhere. They managed to get CCTV of Allan in the club, which, you know, they did eventually release, but that was like a long time after as well. They didn't release that immediately, which is annoying. We'll get more into that in a minute. But because they waited 5 days to try and get the footage, a lot of it had already been written over. Some of it only stood for like 24 hours, 48 hours and rewrites over itself. So a lot of it was already gone. They may have been able to. I'm not going to say probably because that's a bit of a stretch, having not knowing all the information. But maybe they could have even tracked exactly where he sort of went off the path, and they could have got a closer picture than what they had, basically, if they'd have just got the damn footage, but they didn't. So that was that. They also, I believe like a week later, they said that the police said they were going to put an incident van around the area of the nightclub, and they were going to have it sat there in case people wanted to talk or whatever. The van broke down. It never turned up. They didn't send another one. They didn't tell Allan Sr. that this van was not coming, and so he goes down there and he sees nada. There's nothing there. So he's like, what on earth's going on? And they're like, oh, yeah, we forgot to tell you that it broke down. So they dispatched a couple officers to go there. But do you know what I mean? Everything was just kind of half-assed a little bit, it seemed, in the case. On the police's behalf, not anyone else's. Just my opinion. People can be disagreeing with me if they want to, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, these police officers were asking people questions and were handing things out, but it probably wasn't on the scale that it would have been with the van and whatnot. Allan's family tried everything they could. They're still fighting for this day, to this day, you know what I mean? They would hand out posters. They want everyone to know that Allan is still missing. He vanished off of the face of the earth, and nobody has any idea what happened to him. Well, I say nobody, not that we know of, because somebody must know something out there, surely. On the 12th of November, police conducted searches everywhere, fields, houses, you know, just a massive search area that they could. Nothing was found, sadly. They did a search on a body of water, but they didn't search it for very long, and they did actually search a house, because there was some sort of rumours that were going around, or speculation, that potentially after the nightclub, Allan had gone to a house party. I don't know if there's any actual proof of this, but they ended up searching a house, which kind of made people believe that maybe it was possible. They searched this house for 5 weeks straight. The people, I believe, that lived in there couldn't reside in there whilst they searched it. But 5 weeks to search a house is a long time, and they found nothing. And then when they searched the body of water, they didn't search it that long. They searched it for like hours, I believe, and then called it off. So that was really strange to me. Everyone tried everything that they could, you know, releasing pictures of his face, posters, everything. He was featured in football matches, on the news. But what the police didn't do until 7 months later was release the CCTV footage of Allan. Now, when they actually did, it had clearly been edited and bits had been chopped off, and apparently his dad actually said that he'd watched the footage in full. And at the end of the footage that they'd clipped off, he saw that Allan was actually talking to 2 police officers. Nothing's ever really come of that, and I don't really know anything to do with that, but yeah, that's what he actually said. The thing that's frustrating about this, though, is 7 months later, there were tons of people around this area. There was tons of people in the footage at the bar. If they would have released this days after Allan went missing, maybe those people would have remembered seeing him or what happened to him. But now it's 7 months down the line without that thought ever crossing your brain. You not seeing that footage and thinking, oh my gosh, that's me. What can I remember? Oh yeah, I remember this. People don't think about things like that. And some people I have a terrible memory. So you know what I mean? I won't remember something that happened 7 months ago. You would have had a much better chance if you did it within the few days that it happened. So that was really frustrating too, them actually not releasing the footage to the public for so long. And I don't really know why they waited that long, in all honesty, because a lot of these cases, they rely on the public help for them because they have no evidence. They have no idea where he's gone. So the only not evidence, but the only thing that they can go off is public. I saw him go here. Maybe you'll find him here, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of these people would have already forgotten about it after all that time, is what I'm trying to say. Allan's father has also discussed how he found it very odd as well. So basically, when he went out with his friends, his group of friends that he went out with, that's silly saying, but there you go. They would often take photos of each other and post them all on social media. On this night in particular, they didn't do that, which he found very strange. And I find strange. If that's their routine and that's what they do, okay, yeah, sure, then maybe they missed one. So you could just say that was it. But if they did that for like every night out they went on, then why didn't they do it on this one? It's a bit weird. And when you watch the CCTV footage as well, apparently those people around Allan, some of those people around Allan are actually his friends, and nobody even seemed to acknowledge that he was leaving, like, at all, say goodbye to him, nothing. And he had his friends all around him, but then when he's going, nobody went with him. His family have filed complaints with the police department because they also do not like how his case was dealt with, how they didn't go for the CCTV footage. Who would in this case? Like, that could have been a vital piece of evidence and piece of information, and they just didn't get it, and it's heartbreaking. They have done so many things over the years and really do still fight to keep Allan's name alive, to let everybody know that he is still missing. They have not found him. They do not know what happened to him. So if anybody out there does, please give some information to the authorities, because his family are just so desperate to know what happened to him. But yeah, he's still missing. There are a few theories that he could have upset the wrong people, that something along the lines of, like, okay, so a few weeks before he went missing, he actually ended up with a vandalism charge of smashing a window. But I've seen that this was actually an accident, and he was going to court or whatever to the next day after he went missing, or within the next couple of days before he went missing, after he went missing, for this vandalism charge. So people have speculated that maybe he just vanished because of that. I mean, it seems a bit extreme to me for one little vandalism charge, but who knows? But coming from that, people speculated that maybe he was friends with kind of people who did wrong things, and because that put more, they were looking at Allan a bit more, it made them feel like they were being looked at a lot more, and so maybe they did something to Allan, who knows? There's a lot of theories like that he was involved in organised crime, or not necessarily him, but like he knew people who were, and then it reflected badly on him, if you understand what I mean. But yeah, there's just a few theories like that. I'm not going to get too much into them because that's all they are. They're just theories at the end of the day, and anyone could come up with anything, and it might not be the case, or it might be the case, and hopefully one day we'll find out, but at this moment we just don't know. Yeah, but what we do know is that Allan went missing in 2013. We're now in 2024. He is still never been found. I'm not entirely sure. I think I read that his family believes that he has been sadly murdered or is deceased, that he's no longer living. I apologize if I'm wrong with that, but they don't believe that he would have like ran away or anything. He was happy, he was healthy, you know, he had a good family, good friends, everything was going really well for him, so nobody really thought that at the time, although that that's always a theory, you know, it always could be possible. So yeah, please, if anyone knew anything or saw anything, just reach out, because it's just so heartbreaking they're not knowing. But yeah, that is the end of the case of Allan Bryant. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.